anyway, I am here. Hi, guys. Donna. I'm here with Kerri Connor. She is the author. Well, let's say this first before, because, we're friends and we've been friends for a while, and I appreciate you taking the time to do this.
I think it's great that you're doing this. This is fun.
It's going to be an adventure. The technology end of this is a little tough right now, but we're getting better. We're getting better. So, we met through a mutual friend, and then we had the Barnes experience, which I'm very happy I had. So basically, when we're talking about your books, you have about 6 books out, correct?
Almost. Wait,
Almost.
I have to count. I can never, honestly, I admit, I am terrible. I think, wait, 1 second.
No problem.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, yes, 6 books out. Number 7 is, and I have to remind myself of this. It's terrible. Number 7 is the 420 meditations.
Okay.
And then number 8 will be CBD. Possibly. I mean, I'm assuming that'll be number 8, unless I'm lucky and sell something else before then.
Well, you may, but you also have, other little bits and books and day planners and calendars. And
yes.
So, I mean, you're not just limited to 6 books.
No.
So,
but it's weird because I forget. And the way things are right now, it's because there's, this one just came out, but I was just finishing another one and I'm starting another one. So it does get confusing.
I can imagine. So your latest release is Wake, Bake, and Meditate. Taking your spiritual practice to the higher level with cannabis. You want to tell me about it? Yep, there you go. That is it, folks.
That's the book.
You want to tell us about it?
Sure. So this book, when I first came up for the idea for this book, I was focused on the idea of what they call a peak experience and how meditations are much more involved, detailed, realistic, even from a peak experience point of view. So this goes over more like very in-depth types of meditations. And actually I tell the reader to do them first without cannabis.
Okay.
First, because once you use cannabis doing the meditation, you can never do it again without knowing what it's like without it.
True. Very true.
So I do it first. You might want to do it several times without it first. And then you add in cannabis, and then you can really see the difference then. So this goes through how to do that and individual meditations, and then it goes into, hey, let's party and get a group of people together and do meditations together. So the individual ones are more like focused on your inner self, whereas the group ones are more like focused on outer things.
Now, have you done the group ones?
I have done a couple only with a few other people, not in the giant group. I want to. I had really planned on it this summer.
You had a lot of plans with this book.
I had so many plans this summer. This summer was supposed to be my summer. Everybody said, I think you said it, the whole beginning of this is going to be your year, Kerri. This is going to be your year. I'm like, oh, yes, 2020 is going to rock. And now I'm under a rock.
What? And to be fair, I should have, I felt this was going to be your year. I do agree with that. But I also should have listened to myself New Year's Eve when everybody's like, oh, the roaring 20s. And all I could think of was.
Exactly. The real thing is the roaring 20s are not really a good thing. Yes.
No.
The clothes were awesome.
Yeah.
The clothes were great. And I still want to go out and, just wear flapper dresses.
And the Art Deco stuff was awesome. But.
And you know what else about the 20s was really, really great?
What?
Cannabis was legal.
This is true. This is true. This is true. Very true.
It
So,
was legal.
anyway, so what inspired you to write it?
What inspired me to write it? Got high in the hot tub.
Well, they say water is a portal.
Got high in the hot tub. Well, you're a creative person too, so I have to ask, do you get some of your best ideas in the shower?
I have gotten some good ideas in the shower. Yes, I have.
Because it's
And-
quiet, it's peaceful.
Yeah.
Yeah, and especially I think even more so for women, I think the shower is a place where we go for refuge and haven and peace and quiet.
Yes, but I will say this. My husband, who fights his intuition all the time,
Mhm.
he has gotten some major hits while he's been in the shower.
Yeah, it's a time when you're not being really distracted. There's not a whole bunch of stuff going on around you. It's a time for your brain to really think. And for me, I'm dying without my hot tub right now. And it's not because I need to soak in it because my body's sore. That's why I got it. I got it to soak in because I hurt so much. I need my hot tub now because it's a lot more fun getting high in the hot tub. That is my zone. That is my little piece of heaven, and I don't have it right now, and it sucks.
Now that, so now you have a series started with the 420, with Wake, Bake, and Meditate, and you'll be releasing 420 Meditations, which is enhance your spiritual practice with cannabis and you're published through Llewellyn, which this book will be coming out on April of 2021. So what can you tell us about that
April
book?
8th, 2021.
April 8th, okay, the exact date. So mark your
Yeah,
calendar.
that's what they're saying now, April 8th, 2021. That one is called 420 Meditations because there's 420 meditations about weed.
Wow.
And not only you have your 366 for the days of the year, including leap year. And you know what, there's no way in my mind I'm going to be able to come up with all 420. There are ones for different holidays. There are ones for the Sabbats. There are ones for like your birthday. There's ones for the chakras. There's ones for the elements. So it's like you can do the daily meditation, or if you look at it and say, you can flip through and find one from the back of the book that you can do too. There's the moons. There's ones for all the full moons, one for all the new moons. I know there's a few more in there, and I just can't think off the top of my head what they all are. And 420.
But that's good. And here's the thing. I mean, as you were saying before, if somebody's not really into weed, they could use these books just as a meditation book.
Yes.
Because you're offering them meditation for the moon cycle, the lunar cycles, the Sabbats. So it's allowing people to use it even who don't practice.
Exactly. You do not have to partake to use them. The reason for partaking is it is my firm belief that cannabis gives you a objective view of yourself.
Okay.
And by doing that, you are able to heal yourself by learning more about yourself.
Okay. Do you have a favorite strain?
My favorite strain is Northern Lights, which I have not been able to get my hands on seriously in probably a year, almost a year now, because of we had the shortage before recreational went legalized, and I was on an interview the other night with a radio station in Florida, and they didn't know what it was like up here at all. So to find out that we were already in a shortage, we went ahead and legalized recreational, which caused even a worse shortage, and then we got hit with the pandemic. It's not easy to buy right now.
No, I mean, John goes out to his place in Rockford, and after 420, I mean, it was bare bones.
Yeah, it is. We, as much as I wanted Illinois to legalize, they didn't do it the right way.
No, no, but and you would think they would have learned from several other places that had a hard time, like Nevada.
Well, they just wanted the money.
Yeah.
They wanted to get the money in fast, and they did. I have said several times, if they had held off and waited until there was actually a supply, Illinois would have had the largest opening for cannabis sales in the country. The only reason why our sales weren't as big as what they could have been is we ran out.
Right, and now we have one of the worst ones because we don't have the supply.
And we're the most expensive. As far as I know, we're still the most expensive.
I believe that. I do.
It floors me that people pay recreational prices in Illinois for an eighth are about the same as what they are in Colorado for an ounce.
Wow.
Yes.
That's insane.
$100 an ounce in Colorado, I have been told.
Wow.
By several people.
That's really insane.
It is insane. It's crazy. And I was still looking forward to going there next month, and that's not happening now,
So look at it this way: next year, when you release the next book, you can really push the release.
I'm going to try everything all again.
Yeah. I mean, you follow astrology right now. Astrology, it's my podcast, it's my YouTube channel. I can say it. It's a shit show, and we're supposed to be in this for a little while. It's the USA is having a Pluto return, and well, what can I say?
When is it supposed to
I believe we're finally supposed to be kind of getting out of it by 2022.
That's what I thought, which would be 2 years.
Yeah.
And I don't always like being right. And if I say I've got a bad feeling about this, worry. Seriously, worry. And when I was sitting down with Lauren from Starkeeper Illustrations back in August and said, I started planning all of these great signings and my launch party, and I told her I'm having so much fun planning all of this. This is great. This is awesome. I cannot believe the response. And I said, ain't none of it ever going to happen because the world's going to end on May 1st. But,
Well, it didn't end on May. Technically, it did not end.
It did not end.
But the world as we know it.
What I fully and very firmly believe is that several years from now, May 1st is going to become a holiday that is different. I mean, right now it's Beltane and May Day, and which people totally forget about this, it's Loyalty Day.
Okay.
Created by the person in the presidential office at this time, last year designated May 1st as Loyalty Day.
Kiss the ring. Sorry.
Exactly. And I did not realize that when I was having this conversation, and it was my son who later pointed out that that's Loyalty Day. And I said, well, then that makes perfect sense. Because if he had picked May 1st for Loyalty Day, I firmly believe that in about 5 to 10 years, May 1st is going to be known as the Day of Compassion.
Yeah. So, on Facebook, you can be found under the Weed Witch. Did you name yourself that, or did somebody bestow that on you?
Somebody, who did that? Somebody else did. It might have been Lauren. I can't remember if it was or not.
But it just kind of stuck.
Yeah. I don't remember. I don't remember who it was.
Okay. So most of your writing is in the spiritual nature. Do you consider yourself a writer first and foremost, or is your spirituality more of a calling and you feel you need to share this with everybody? Why did you decide to blend the two together?
it, I wanted to be a writer ever since I can remember. Literally. Ever since I can remember. Some of my earliest memories is while my mom was cleaning the kitchen floor.
Okay.
She would sit me at the dining room table with the old manual typewriter.
Mm-hmm.
And I would have been somewhere about 3 or 4 because my brother was in preschool at the time and I was the only one at home with her. So I was probably 3. And she would set me in front of that typewriter and I would just sit there and bang away at that typewriter. And my mother liked to write poetry.
Mm-hmm.
And she never really, she did stuff for like the local newspaper, but she never did anything really with her writing. And I can remember her saying things about maybe you'll be a writer someday.
Nice.
I don't know if she, I don't remember well enough to know if she ever really wanted that but I can remember vague things of that. So by the time I was in 6th grade, I started the West School newspaper. They didn't have a newspaper for the grade school, so I started a newspaper in 6th grade. In 7th grade, I was on the newspaper staff for the junior high. In 8th grade, I was the editor of the newspaper for the junior high. 9th and 10th grade, I didn't do any writing. I did play productions. So I didn't do any writing then, but then, and they didn't have any really good classes. Where I went to high school, I was in Zion. So my high school was split up at the time, where 9th and 10th graders were at Pierce campus in one part of town, and juniors and seniors were at Horizon campus way on the other side of town. So there just wasn't the opportunity to take some of the classes that I wanted to take as a freshman and sophomore because they weren't on my campus.
Okay.
So junior year, and by the time I graduated high school, I had like enough credits in English classes to graduate alone. Because I took everything. I took creative writing like every semester. It was a 1-semester class, but I took it each semester for 2 years. I was on newspaper staff. I was on yearbook. I became managing editor of the newspaper by the end of my junior year, and then I was editor-in-chief my senior year and a managing editor on the yearbook staff. When I was a freshman, while I was not working on a school newspaper, I wrote for Chicagoland Hockey covering the hockey conference that my school's team was in.
Impressive.
There were like 16 teams in the conference or whatever, and one of the assistant coach was my biology teacher, and he came up to me one day after class and said, I know a guy who's looking for somebody that would write about all of the hockey teams, and I couldn't think of anybody better than you. And so I called him up, and I did that for 4 years.
Okay.
All through high school, I worked for Chicagoland Hockey.
Wow.
Gave me free passes to all the locker rooms.
For an impressionable young woman.
It honestly, it was really funny because the guys would freak out.
Oh, I'm sure.
The guys would freak out, and I'm just like, honey, I got brothers. Trust me. Nothing. Mm-mm.
Nothing surprised you.
Nothing. Nothing. So I've on and off, I was writing all along, but I didn't always do stuff with it. I tried to write a book when I was in high school, and this was what was weird. Okay, 18 years old. I tried to write a book, and I had sent it to an agent, and she told me that she didn't think she could find a market for it. I'm like, okay, that's fine. Fast forward to when I was 32 years old, working at Borders in McHenry. And I was on what they called the special process team. So my job was all the special orders. If somebody was looking for a book, I would try to find it. And it wasn't like it is today, because this was the early 2000s. It's not like you just hopped on Google and said, where's this book? No, you had to go and contact publishers and go through all of this crazy stuff to get a book in your hands. And I also knew the New Age area of the store. We all had our area of the store that we specialized in. So while I often didn't work on the floor, you know, if they needed me for backup, I would go to cash, or if they needed me for backup, I'd go to the cafe. But most of my time I was hidden off the floor in this little tiny office with cages all around me. It's literally what it was. But if they needed me, I'd go out there and, Kerri, we have somebody who has a question about this area, come help. Well, the thing that people were looking for in the New Age area was a small pocket guide of correspondences. Now, if you go and you look up a correspondence books in just about any New Age book, and you look up the correspondences, it starts with use these things for love, use these things for that, use these things for that. Well, I did it kind of the opposite way, where I said, these things are all good for these things, so that you could go through and figure out what you needed. So I wrote a book in 2 weeks.
Wow. Okay.
It's a
I was
tiny
impressed I did
book.
it in a month.
It's a really tiny book. It's literally the pocket spell creator, where you kind of go through and say, okay, I have this stuff and this stuff. What can I do with it? So that you can figure out what to do with what you have, instead of having to run out and buy new stuff. So I wrote it in 2 weeks. I sent it to the same agent that I had tried to send a book to when I was 18 years old.
Wow. Okay.
And she called me and said, I remember you. I want this book. I can sell this book.
Nice.
And I'm still stuck on the, you remember me? Before she got, and this is, again, old days, so she wasn't emailing me paperwork. She was sending it in the snail mail. Before she got the paperwork to me to sign for her to be my agent, she sold the book.
Wow.
To New Page Books. So it was literally written in 2 weeks, agented, and sold to New Page Books within another 2 weeks. So it was a month-long process. That was it. That was it.
Wow.
I was so lucky. So lucky, because I'm still floored that happened. They eventually had me do another one for them, which was the Pocket Guide to Rituals. And the same time I was writing that, I was also writing the Pocket Idiot's Guide to Potions. My agent got that one for me because they were looking for somebody to write it. And she said, oh, here, try her. She just did a book, and they hired me. So that was cool. And then I didn't do anything for a long time. And I decided I wanted to start writing again. So I did Spells for Tough Times. And then I stopped writing again. And I ended up going to work in a bookstore again. This time, Barnes & Noble.
Where our paths were destined to cross.
And I say, while I was there, I started writing Wake, Bake, and Meditate. And when it closed, I said, I need to start, if I'm going to be a writer, I need to be a writer. I need to stop saying, I work in a bookstore and I write. I need to be a writer who occasionally works in a bookstore.
You need to own it for yourself.
Yeah, and I've always had, I am not good at that. I am terrible at that. And I have people tell me all the time, PJ, PJ,
Mm-hmm.
my buddy PJ.
Mm-hmm.
he always tells me I am far more accomplished than what I realize, and he's right.
You are.
I have a shelf behind me that is, you know, halfway filled with books that I'm in or I've written, and it's not enough.
Well, but I think for most people, writers, I mean, I even know somebody who's a sound guy, and we were talking about this last night, the fact that there's an imposter syndrome. You know, you put it out there, and is your next one going to be as good? You know, can you make the next one in the series just as good? You know, was that just a fluke? Am I an imposter? So that
you do. That's a good way of putting it. I never really thought of that. I mean, that is a good word for it. And I mean, it's a little bit different with you because I know you, but doing some of these interviews, it's so weird. I've only done 2 other ones now, but I've got a couple coming up that are, you know, kind of bigger interviews with people I don't know, and it's hard to say, yes, read my book.
Oh yeah. I mean, in fact, one of my interviews, I did an interview a couple weeks ago, and it just posted today. She posted it on YouTube today, and I did another one, and the first,
send me the link.
The first one was kind of, you know, we had technical issues, so I ended up reading the questions, basically doing my interview out, just me. The second one, there was no interview prep. I had no questions. I had no idea what she was going to ask, and it devolved into us talking about trauma. For whatever reason, maybe somebody needs to hear that, but it's when you're in the seat you are right now, it does become very much you're constantly trying to figure out what you need to say.
Yeah.
And it's hard to say, yes, read my book, because you're putting yourself out there. Each book is a baby.
Yes,
it doesn't matter.
It's when I sit there after seeing this, after not seeing it for so long, when I got the final edit in the PDF format, and I started reading through it, and I'm just like, wow, they really edited this a whole lot. They made this sound great. So I went back to my original files that I sent them.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, oh, no, shit, I said that.
Oh.
And honestly, I mean, part of it, too, I'm a terrible writer. I really am a terrible writer. You hear about these people that they write a draft and then they go back and they edit it and they do this and they do that, and I write one frickin' draft and I send it. Well, because my brain cannot go in and edit it. It can't. I can edit other people's stuff. I cannot edit my own stuff. So I have never read entirely through something I have written other than the kids' book I'm writing. Literally, I've never sat down and read any of my stuff completely all the way through because I can't edit myself, so it doesn't do me any good to read it. I know what I wrote.
But let me ask you this. Okay, because the kids' book you're writing is something that's fictional. You've written mainly at this point, I don't want to, how-to books. If you're writing a fiction book, it's a different thing because you have to go back and make sure that the story tracks.
Yes.
Whereas what you're writing currently, you don't have to make sure that it necessarily tracks exactly. To
Correct.
A certain extent.
Yes. No, I understand.
Yeah.
No, yeah. I mean, this kind of writing, a lot of it is it's your thesis. It's your college papers.
Yeah.
It's very similar in ways to writing a college paper, but you have to, make it sound a lot better. Well, I've had some really interesting college papers, let me say.
I'm sure you did.